The Wehrmacht's army, the Heer, built its ranks on a strict ladder of enlisted grades. At the bottom stood the Schütze, a basic rifleman with almost no insignia at all. A Schütze wore plain shoulder strap, the branch color piped along the edge. After some service, a soldier could rise to Oberschütze, marked by a single small star. Next came Gefreiter, the first true step above a raw recruit. A Gefreiter's shoulder strap carried one small pip sewn near the button. Obergefreiter added a second pip, marking a soldier with several years of service. Long-serving privates could even reach Stabsgefreiter, a senior rank with 3 pips. Above the private ranks began the Unteroffizier class, Germany's backbone of NCOs. An Unteroffizier's collar carried a thin silver braid, setting NCOs apart at a glance. Unterfeldwebel followed, an NCO trusted with small squads and daily discipline. A Feldwebel commanded more authority still, often running an entire platoon in practice. The Feldwebel's shoulder strap combined silver braid with added stars for rank. Oberfeldwebel marked a senior sergeant, often the backbone of daily company operations. At the very top of the enlisted ladder stood the Stabsfeldwebel. A Stabsfeldwebel had often served 12 years or more before reaching that rank. NCOs bridged the gap between ordinary soldiers and commissioned officers. Promotion through these ranks depended on time served, conduct, and combat performance. Each rank change meant a new insignia, sewn by hand onto the uniform. This enlisted ladder gave the Heer a clear chain of command to the smallest unit. Above the NCOs began the officer corps, starting with the lieutenant. A lieutenant commanded a platoon, marked by a single star on silver shoulder boards. Oberleutnant added a second star, usually marking a more experienced platoon leader. Hauptmann commanded a company, wearing shoulder boards without stars but a distinct braid. Major was the first field-grade rank, commanding a battalion of several hundred men. Oberstleutnant followed, often serving as second in command of a regiment. Oberst commanded a full regiment, one of the most visible field ranks. Above Oberst began the general, starting with General Major. A General Major typically commanded a division of over 10,000 soldiers. General Lieutenant commanded larger formations, often an army corps in the field. General der Infanterie, and equivalent titles for other arms, marked a full general. These branch-specific general titles named the officer's original combat arm. General Oberst sat just below the very top of the army's rank structure. At the summit stood Generalfeldmarschall, a rank reserved for a select few. A Generalfeldmarschall's baton was a literal ceremonial object, gold and jeweled. Only 25 men ever held that field marshal rank during the entire war. One unique rank stood above them all, Reichsmarschall, held solely by Hermann Göring. Officer promotions depended on connections, performance, and often personal favor from Hitler. Each officer rank carried its own shoulder board pattern, stars, and braid thickness. This officer hierarchy gave the Heer a structure from platoon to army group. Germany's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, built a rank system that mirrored the army closely. Its lowest rank, Flieger, was the Air Force equivalent of an army private. Above Flieger came Gefreiter, identical in insignia logic to army ranks. Unteroffizier ranks followed the same silver braid pattern as their army counterpart. Feldwebel ranks in the Luftwaffe commanded ground crews and flight sections alike. Officer ranks began with lieutenant, worn by fresh pilots straight from flight school. Oberleutnant and Hauptmann followed the same progression as in the Heer. Major commanded a Gruppe, roughly equivalent to an army battalion in size. Oberstleutnant and Oberst commanded larger, flying wings called a Geschwader. General Major and General Lieutenant commanded entire air corps across a combat theater. General der Flieger marked a full general within the Air Force branch. General Oberst sat near the top of the Luftwaffe's command structure. Generalfeldmarschall existed here too, awarded to only a handful of air commanders. Hermann Göring himself held the unique rank of Reichsmarschall as Luftwaffe chief. Luftwaffe uniforms used blue-gray cloth, instantly distinguishing airmen from army soldiers. Pilots often added their own unit badges alongside standard rank insignia. Fighter aces sometimes wore extra decorations that outshone their actual rank insignia. Ground crew technicians held their own specialist ranks within the same structure. Paratroopers, the Fallschirmjäger, technically belonged to the Luftwaffe chain of command. This shared structure let the Luftwaffe expand rapidly while keeping familiar army logic. Germany's navy, the Kriegsmarine, used entirely different rank names from the army. A basic sailor started as Matrose, the naval equivalent of a private. Obermatrose followed, marking a sailor with a bit more experience aboard ship. Mott was the Navy's first NCO rank, roughly equal to an Army Unteroffizier. Obermacht and Feldwebel equivalent ranks followed the same rising ladder. Bootsman marked a senior NCO, often responsible for discipline on deck. Officer ranks began with Lieutenant zur See, the Navy's junior officer grade. Oberleutnant zur See followed, commanding small sections aboard larger vessels. Kapitänleutnant often commanded a submarine, one of the war's most feared roles. Korvettenkapitän commanded larger vessels, like destroyers or escort ships. Fregattenkapitän commanded still larger warships within the fleet. Kapitän zur See was the Navy's equivalent of a full army colonel. Konteradmiral marked the first flag rank, commanding a squadron of ships. Vice-admiral commanded larger fleet, formations across an entire theater. Admiral sat near the top of the naval hierarchy, commanding major fleets. General-admiral existed as a rank between admiral and the very top grade. Gross Admiral was the Kriegsmarine's highest rank, equivalent to a field marshal. Karl Donitz held that top naval rank before later succeeding Hitler himself. Naval uniforms used dark blue cloth, with gold braid marking each rank. U-boat crews often wore informal gear at sea despite their formal rank titles. The Waffen-SS, the armed combat branch of the SS, built its own separate rank system. Its lowest rank, SS Schütze, mirrored an army private in role and status. SS Oberschütze marked slightly more experienced troops, same as the army equivalent. SS Sturmmann followed, roughly equal to an army Gefreiter. SS Rottenführer marked a junior team leader, similar to an army Obergefreiter. SS Unterscharführer was the SS's first true NCO rank. SS Scharführer commanded small squads, comparable to an army Unterfeldwebel. SS Oberscharführer marked a more senior squad leader within the rank. SS Hauptscharführer stood near the top of the SS enlisted ladder. SS Sturmscharführer was the highest enlisted rank, equal to an army Stabsfeldwebel. These SS ranks used the same underlying structure as the army, renamed entirely. SS insignia relied on collar patches instead of the army's shoulder pips. Each collar patch used a distinct pattern of bars and pips per rank. One collar tab showed a branch symbol, while rank showed on the other. Waffen-SS uniforms used field gray cloth, similar to army combat gear. Distinctive camouflage patterns later became associated closely with Waffen-SS combat units. Promotion through SS enlisted ranks followed, similar service time rules as the Army. SS recruits underwent especially harsh training before earning their first rank insignia. The renamed rank system reinforced the SS's identity as separate from the regular military. This parallel structure let the SS operate as a state within the state. Above the enlisted ladder, Waffen-SS officer ranks began with SS Untersturmführer. That junior rank matched an army lieutenant in both role and authority. SS Obersturmführer followed, equal in standing to an army Oberleutnant. SS Hauptsturmführer commanded a company, matching an army Hauptmann. SS Sturmbannführer commanded a battalion, equal to an army major. SS Obersturmbannführer served as second in command of a regiment, like an Oberstleutnant. SS Standartenführer commanded a full regiment, called a Standart in SS terms. SS Oberführer sat in an unusual middle rank with no exact army equivalent. SS Brigadeführer marked the first SS general rank, equal to a general major. SS Gruppenführer commanded larger formations, comparable to a general lieutenant. SS Obergruppenführer stood near the top, equal to a full general. SS Oberstgruppenführer was created late in the war for a handful of top commanders. Reichsführer SS sat above them all, a unique title held only by Heinrich Himmler. Himmler answered directly to Hitler, giving the SS its own independent chain of command. SS officer insignia combined silver oak leaves with the same collar patch system. Senior SS officers often held dual titles across both police and military structures. This dual hat system let SS leaders control both battlefield units and internal security. Waffen-SS officers trained at dedicated academies separate from regular army schools. Loyalty to Hitler personally, not just to Germany, defined the SS officer oath. This parallel officer structure made the SS a private army loyal to one man. Beyond the combat, Waffen-SS existed the Allgemeine SS, the organization's original political branch. This general SS ran internal security, surveillance, and racial policy enforcement. Its rank titles matched the Waffen-SS system exactly, from Schütze up to Gruppenführer. Allgemeine SS members typically served part-time, holding civilian jobs alongside their duties. Black dress uniforms distinguished Allgemeine SS members from combat Waffen-SS troops. Skull-shaped cap insignia appeared across both branches of the SS. Local SS district leaders held ranks, tied directly to their administrative territory. An SS Brigadeführer might oversee an entire region's internal security apparatus. The Allgemeine SS worked closely with the Gestapo on internal investigation. Membership required proof of so-called racial purity going back generations. Recruits swore a personal oath of loyalty directly to Adolf Hitler. Promotion depended heavily on ideological commitment, as much as any practical skill. Allgemeine SS officers often transferred later into concentration camp administration role. This branch's rank structure gave Himmler control far beyond the battlefield. Ceremonial gatherings let senior SS leaders display their full rank insignia publicly. Silver braid and piping marked officer status across the entire black uniform. The Allgemeine SS shrank as the war drew more members into combat units. By 1945, many nominal Allgemeine SS ranks existed only on paper. This branch's legacy became central to post-war war crimes investigations. Its rank records later helped identify individuals for prosecution after the war. Before the SS rose to power, the SA was the Nazi Party's original paramilitary wing. Known as the Brownshirts, SA members wore distinctive brown uniform tunics. Its lowest rank, SA man, was the ordinary rank-and-file member. SA Sturman followed, marking a slightly more senior street-level member. The Rottenführer led a small squad. Within the local SA unit, the Scharführer commanded a large group during marches and rallies. The Truppführer oversaw multiple squads within a single district. Sturmführer commanded a full company-sized formation called a Sturm. Sturmbannführer commanded a battalion-sized group across a wider area. Standartenführer led a regiment-sized formation known as a Standart. A Oberführer commanded a brigade, overseeing multiple regiments at once. A Gruppenführer commanded an entire region's SA forces. A Gruppenführer stood among the organization's most senior regional leaders. Ernst Röhm led the entire SA as its Stabschef, or chief of staff. The SA grew to millions of members by the early 1930s. Röhm's ambitions to absorb the army triggered his downfall in 1934. The Night of the Long Knives saw Röhm and top SA leaders executed. After that purge, the SA lost most of its political power permanently. Its remaining ranks continued in a reduced, largely ceremonial role. The SS, once subordinate to the SA, rose to replace it entirely. Beyond the military and SS, the Nazi Party itself had its own political rank ladder. At the neighborhood level stood the Blockleiter, watching over a single city block. A Blockleiter reported on residents' behavior directly to higher party officials. Above the Blockleiter stood the Zellenleiter, overseeing several blocks at once. Ortsgruppenleiter led an entire local party, branch within a town or district. Kreisleiter oversaw a full county-sized administrative area for the party. Gauleiter ranked among the most powerful regional party bosses in Germany. Each Gauleiter answered directly to party headquarters, wielding enormous local authority. Reichsleiter sat at the very top of the party's civilian rank structure. Only a small circle of Hitler's closest allies ever held that top title. Party ranks used gold, silver, and colored piping to mark each level. Uniformed party officials wore brown tunics, distinct from both Army and SS gear. Local party leaders controlled ration cards, housing, and countless daily civilian matters. This political rank system let the party monitor nearly every German household. Party rank often mattered more locally than military rank in daily life. Ambitious officials climbed this ladder through loyalty, connection, and public visibility. Women's party auxiliaries had a parallel, though less powerful, rank structure. Youth organizations like the Hitler Youth used their own separate rank title. This civilian hierarchy extended party control deep into ordinary German life. By war's end, this structure had thoroughly entangled state and party power. Germany's police forces were folded into the Nazi state's security apparatus over time. The Ordnungspolizei, or regular uniformed police, kept ranks similar to the army. A Wachtmeister was an ordinary patrol officer, the police equivalent of an NCO. Revieroberwachtmeister marked a senior patrol officer overseeing a local precinct. Higher police officers held titles like Polizeioberst, matching an army colonel. The Kriminalpolizei, or Kripo, investigated criminal cases using detective-style ranks. The Gestapo, the secret state police, operated with its own internal SS-style ranks. Gestapo agents often held dual SS rank alongside their police title. Heinrich Himmler eventually controlled both the SS and the entire police apparatus. This fusion blurred the line between law enforcement and political persecution completely. Regional police chiefs, called Höhere SS und Polizeiführer, held enormous local power. These dual-hatted officials commanded SS units and police forces simultaneously. Plainclothes Gestapo officers rarely displayed Regierung rank insignia during field operations. Notifa concentration camp guards held SS Notifa ranks, specific to camp administration duties. Notifa camp commandants typically held mid to senior Notifa SS officer ranks like Sturmbannführer. Nota police rank badges used silver, Nota braid on dark green uniform collars. This merged police SS system extended Notifa surveillance into nearly every German city. After the war, these ranks became key evidence in war crimes trial. Nuremberg prosecutors used rank records to Notifa establish chains of command and responsibility. Notifa this branch's history remains one of Notifa the most documented parts of the regime. Across every branch, Notifa insignia turned a plain uniform into a readable rank chart. Army shoulder boards used silver braid on a base colored by branch of service. Infantry used white piping, while artillery used red, and cavalry used gold-yellow. Officers' shoulder boards grew more elaborate, with silver cord as rank increased. Enlisted soldiers instead wore simple cloth shoulder straps with small metal pips. SS collar patches used a completely different system based on paired tabs. One SS collar tab showed a branch symbol, marking unit identity. The other collar tab displayed bars and pips indicating specific rank. Luftwaffe insignia used a similar shoulder board system, colored blue-gray for the branch. Navy rank instead appeared on sleeve cuffs, using rings of gold braid. A single ring marked a junior officer, multiple rings a captain or admiral. Admirals added a star above their sleeve rings to mark flag rank. Collar tabs, called Litzen, appeared on many army uniforms regardless of rank. Cap insignia varied by branch, from eagles to skulls to anchors. Skull cap badges marked certain units, echoing older Prussian cavalry traditions. Piping color along collars and cap instantly identified a soldier's combat branch. Award ribbons and medals sat alongside rank insignia, adding another layer of meaning. Field uniforms often used simplified, subdued insignia to avoid drawing enemy fire. Parade uniforms displayed the full, elaborate version of every rank symbol. This layered insignia system let veterans read a stranger's entire career at a glance. At the very top of this entire structure stood Adolf Hitler, holding the title Führer. Hitler outranked every military and party title, answering to no one below him. Below Hitler, a handful of men held titles found nowhere else in the system. Hermann Göring held Reichsmarshal, ranking above every regular field marshal. Heinrich Himmler held Reichsführer SS, controlling police, SS, and eventually Army Reserve. Joseph Goebbels held senior party rank, while running the state's propaganda machine. These men often held overlapping titles across party, state, and military structures. Overlapping chains of command created constant rivalry between competing branches. Army generals frequently clashed with SS leaders over authority and resources. Hitler deliberately encouraged this rivalry to keep any one branch from growing too strong. As the war turned, emergency ranks and titles multiplied rapidly across every branch. Home Guard units created entirely new, hastily organized rank structures in 1944. By early 1945, rank insignia meant less as the entire command structure collapsed. Allied occupation forces dismantled every branch of this rank system after victory. Nuremberg trials used surviving rank records to trace responsibility up the chain. Officers argued they were simply following orders from superiors in this rigid hierarchy. That defense often failed, as courts held rank itself responsible for command decisions. Modern historians still study this system to understand how atrocities were organized. Understanding rank structure remains key to understanding how the entire regime functioned. 12 branches, one command structure, and a hierarchy that enabled history's darkest chapter.